Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. We'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Cinco.
Here.
Mr. Erb.
He'll be here in about 5 minutes. Running late.
Dr. Griesach.
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Here.
Mr. Johns.
Here.
Mrs. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Sedlak.
Here.
Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Thank you, Sharon. Council, we'll move over to the approval of the minutes of Citizens Night meeting of November 7th, 2013, and the budget meeting of November 7th, 2013. Any further additions or corrections? Seeing none, motion on the floor. Let me make a motion, I didn't hear it.
Sorry. I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
Oh, motion on the floor for the approval of the...
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving over to our approval of our reports of our tax collections. Any other comments, corrections, additions? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Dr. Griesach.
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Mr. Johns.
Aye.
Mrs. Allison.
Aye.
Mr. Duncan.
Aye.
And moving over to our payroll report. Any other questions or comments on our payroll report? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve payroll. Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Duncan.
Aye.
Mrs. Allison.
Aye.
Mr. Johns.
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Dr. Griesach.
Aye.
And we'll go over the list of bills and budget transfers. Mr. Duncan.
I have nothing.
Mrs. Allison.
Nothing.
Mr. John.
Nothing, sir.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Nothing, Mayor.
And Dr. Griesach.
Just to clarify, were we going to remove the gateway bill from the rec department? That's been done?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
This is for both the list of bills and budget transfers. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Dr. Griesach.
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Mr. Johns.
Aye.
Mrs. Allison.
Aye.
Mr. Duncan.
Aye.
Mr. Duncan, I know that you said that you had 4 appointments or nominations, if you would, on our vacancies, boards, commissions, and authorities.
Yes, Mayor. The first, I'd like to nominate Pamela Barrasso for the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Second would be, I'd like to nominate Jack Spillman for the Municipal Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Third, for the Zoning Hearing Board, I'd like to nominate Bob Bell.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the final, for the Police Civil Service Commission, Jim Rosenpaul.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations? Mr. Duncan, is that
I
it
believe
for
that's
you?
all I have.
Anybody else have any appointments or nominations on
Yes,
council?
I have
Mayor.
a question. There was a couple that were named that weren't on our list. Is there a reason?
I didn't find the letters that were sent in. I looked for the letters, and I just put on what I was able to find during the transition.
What
And
2 would they be?
Barrasso, we can't, what's on Barrasso? not on here?
Pamela Barrasso, I have her letter here that was sent.
Yeah, she was notably missing, though, on this.
That was sent on November 30th.
It just was missing from
It's
this
not
part.
on our list.
Oh, okay, well,
That's where it was just.
Well, in that case, does that have to go to next month, or because it's not here? or-
Here.
No. Mr. Dice?
Well, I believe your evidence, you have evidence that she submitted it on November.
I have it right here.
And Joe's, ministerially, he can't find them. That doesn't mean they don't exist. I think Mr. Bell's is there as well. Bob Bell's dated what, November 6th?
Yeah, that wasn't here as well, yeah.
November 7th.
I think it's just a nomination, so clearly you can vote to nominate them based upon the fact that the letters exist and now the manager has them.
Makes sense.
Okay, I heard that there were some more nominations or appointments.
Yes, Mayor.
Dr. Griesbach.
I'd like to nominate to the Finance Authority from the Second Ward, Tom Weichel. That is for the 5-year term.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And for the Municipal Authority from the Second Ward, I'd like to nominate Cheryl Harris.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any others, Dr. Griesbach?
That's all for this evening.
Anybody else have any nominations or appointments? Please.
I'd like to nominate Larry Krauser from Crasta Properties to the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
There's another term as well. I'd like to nominate Mark Ducret from the Club Sport and Health Club across the street. To the
there a
Convention and
second?
Visitors Bureau.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other nominations or appointments, council?
Yes, Mayor.
Please.
I'm looking at the, see if it's here. Yeah, I'd also like to nominate to be the Civil Service Commission, John Buzzy.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I do think that there was one added on for the, let me think here. Len Young, I'm looking right at him. Yeah, and I didn't see his name up here for
It's on here.
Finance Authority. I'd like to nominate, I must have an older one, Len Young,
It is on there.
Third Ward. Len Young,
Is there a second?
no second?
Motion dies.
Okay.
Any other nominations or appointments?
I believe that's all.
All righty, we'll move over to bids and proposals.
Yes, Mayor. I asked Mike Gleason from Arthur Gallagher and Company to come in. He comes in every year. He's our broker for our insurances, and he just wants to give an update of where we are at the moment. So,
Thank you. The renewals have come in from all the incumbent carriers, so coverage is ready to go. There was a competing quote that came in that the underwriters requested more time to see if they could give a better price. So once we receive that, we'll analyze that and the coverage side by side to make sure it matches up and to see if it can save the municipality money. Currently, the renewal came in at about 8% increase, which we have since whittled down to about 6%. So we're trying to see if we can get a better number than that. So that's why we don't have the final
How long do you
numbers ready
think?
to present. I'm thinking no more than a week to give them. I don't think we want to stretch it out too much longer than that.
Council, any questions on Mr. Gleason's request? I guess are you asking that they consider? Is that, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
No, I'm just saying they've asked for more time. I talked it over with Joe. We thought it was a good idea to see if we could get a better number for the municipality. And so that's why I came in front of you, just to let you know everything's okay. We have coverage in place.
We have plenty of time.
There's plenty of time. Yep.
Oh, this does not hurt us an extra week
Absolutely.
or?
Well, no, but hopefully it's going to help you.
Well, no, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's not hurting us.
Coverage is here. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we'll see in
So if we hold, if we hold it off, we're holding it off for a month, correct?
No, you can't hold off. Well, you'll have to make a decision before the 1st.
Okay.
which you can do.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah,
you
there's-
So we'd have a special meeting to do that, or?
You could do it that way, or he can get his numbers to Joe. Joe can get to everybody and indicate what they are. Joe's the one that can accept it.
So it's administrative.
Yes, it can be administrative in nature.
So what do we,
It affirms-
so what's the request for this evening?
I was just asked to show up and give a report and let you know that, or ask for that, one of the insurance carriers wanted more time.
So if we, I guess my question is from a procedural standpoint, if we table it, we'd have to come back to untable it.
Wouldn't do anything with it. It's not on the agenda for necessarily action. It's merely there.
Okay, so just ignore it.
He's given you a report, and in a week or two, he should be back to Joe. Joe then should notify everybody what the numbers are. Then administratively, he can see to it insurance is put in place, and we'll just move forward with that, and in the January's meeting, it can be affirmed.
Is council comfortable with this?
Yeah, I would also appreciate that would be announced off of the website at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah, sure, yes.
All right.
I am.
Everybody good with it?
I am.
Okay, Michael, you have your orders.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move over to public comment on agenda items only. Agenda items only. Seeing none, we'll move over to resolutions.
Yes, Mayor, the first one we talked about Thursday, it's a resolution authorizing myself to enter into agreement for the participation with the County of Allegheny for snow and ice control on the county roads for the next 4 years.
As if you all remember, we did discuss this at our work session, and this is a good move for the municipality. We're
Move to
still getting a
approve.
great price.
Second.
There's a second. Roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Joe, if you would.
Okay, the second resolution is approving an amended and restated funding agreement project between the municipality of Monroeville and the County of Allegheny for certain roadway improvements, thus being Caruso Drive.
Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
With that resolution, I talked to Attorney Howard Lewick today. We have it, I'm going to ask Joe to get it executed tonight and emailed to Howard Lewick for tomorrow, because they're moving forward with this to the extent that there'll be bid openings. And without that resolution, they don't want to move forward with it. So he has an email address to use tonight.
Very good. And we have nothing else, correct, Joe?
That's it.
All righty, no ordinances this evening, and we'll move over to public comments. And again, this is for your turn to come up. Please come on up. Oh, ladies first. If you'll sign in, please.
Hi, Linda Gatos, and I do live in Monroeville.
Very good, thank
I just wanted to say that I had gone to the seniors center this morning for their breakfast, and wanted to thank them and what a wonderful job they do, and the people are so delightful and just wonderful there, and anyone that doesn't partake in anything that you can there is really missing out. They had kids come and sing and the Santa Claus, and it was just a wonderful thing, and I wanted to thank them for having us, and also just let everyone know to go if you can. So,
Very
that's
good.
all, and happy holidays to everybody.
Anybody else want to come up? John, grab a seat up front up here. You'll get up here eventually. Bob, if you would, please state your name.
Robert Serafini, a Monroeville resident. On this resolution, too, since I can, what kind of improvements are they making there?
Mrs. Allison, would you like to address that?
Yeah, this started about 4 years ago. It's for turning lanes. It's an intersection of Monroeville Boulevard and Caruso Plan and Corporate One. You will have, going down the hill, you will have a turning lane for you to get into Corporate One instead of your left fast lane being also the turning lane. And also coming up the hill, when people going into Caruso Plan, there will be a left turning lane for them to safely wait in instead of your fast lane now being the left turn lane.
So all they're doing is making more accessible to get into Corporate One, basically.
Both ways. It's for people
Okay.
coming up the hill to get into Caruso Plan as well.
It should make it, yeah,
It helps the businesses as well.
no problem. Please sign in and state your name for the record and where you live.
Okay, I'm already signed in, Mr. Mayor. My name is John Yakum. I do live in Monroeville. Before I start, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Manager Sedlak, and Solicitor Dice, good evening to all of you. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to address council and yourself again this evening. Last week, I asked the question as to whose decision it was to unhire 5 newly hired police officers. Mr. Mayor, you would not answer my question citing personnel issues, but then Councilman Grieshock proceeded to discuss the department manpower. You also stated that you would have more to say about my comments later, but once again you failed to give a response. I think the public as well as I would like to know about the manpower situation of our police department, especially in light of last night. Mr. Mayor, this is not a personnel issue, but a manpower issue and a budget issue. Last week, Councilman Grieshock compared the staffing needs of our police department to the staffing needs of various communities around the area. I have a few questions regarding those comparisons that I would like to pose to you and to Councilman Grieshock. How many low-income housing projects are in Cranberry Township? How many bus stops come into Cranberry from low-income city neighborhoods? How does this compare to Monroeville? What is the median income in Mount Lebanon compared to Monroeville? How many hospitals does Mount Lebanon have? How many emergency rooms? Is Mount Lebanon the geographic location of the second busiest intersection in the state of Pennsylvania? How many malls does Plum have compared to Monroeville? How many hotels and motels? Do they have any flea bag hotels? Or do they have any hotels that permit junkies to pay with only cash? Has he done a demographic comparison between Monroeville and Upper St. Clair or Bethel Park or North Huntington? All of these communities, which Councilman Grieshock used as examples last week, are vastly different from Monroeville. You cannot compare just the residential population of these communities. It is important to consider Monroeville's transient population, our demographics, our social economic information. These communities that Councilman Grieshock has referenced do not have all of the following: large shopping and retail areas, significant business and industry, 3 hospitals, 2 emergency rooms, a college, 3 high school programs that bring into our community students who fall outside of the mainstream educational system, a wave pool, significant hotels, including those that do not require credit cards, a favorite for the drug dealers and prostitutes, a large numbers of bars and restaurants, major traffic arteries that provide a crossroad for all kinds of crime, low-income housing projects, not just low-income housing, but buildings in areas that tend to concentrate our low-income population. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Grieshock also compares our community policing needs to that of Penn Hills. Penn Hills has only 45 officers, according to Councilman Grieshock. Penn Hills has a huge crime problem compared to ours, with not nearly the hotel, motel, retail, industrial, or traffic patterns as us. I would argue that Penn Hills is vastly understaffed. And I would also argue that most residents would not want to trade Penn Hills' crime problems and the perception of those crime problems with ours. The idea of a large police department is to prevent crime, not to have our crime problem become like Penn Hills. Last week, I referenced previous chiefs of police and previous councils as having previously placed our manpower needs at between the high 40s and the mid 50s. Councilman Grieshock, with his police experience, suggests our department can be smaller because the communities around us have smaller departments. The FBI and the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, report ratios of officers to residents. The averages for a community our size is 1.8 and 2.3 officers per 1,000 residents. If Monroeville brings their department up to 48 officers, our ratio will only be 1.6 officers per 1,000 residents. This fails to take into consideration the daytime population of Monroeville, which swells beyond 100,000 per day. If Mr. Sedlak continues to let the manpower dwindle to 40 officers, we will be at 1.3 officers per 1,000 residents. This would be well below the averages, and I and others believe our diminished department will put our residents and officers at risk. I would argue that the FBI and the IACP have a better handle of police manpower needs than councilmen from the 2nd Ward. Several years ago, I ran for council and I was unsuccessful. One of the issues that I ran on was to try to improve safety of our community. I wrote letters, I talked to residents and cops, and I even managed to get your attention, Mr. Mayor, with a letter to the editor about crime being on everybody's mind. We were in the middle of a burglary spree, and we had an inordinate number of shootings that year. I believe you attacked my letter, Mr. Mayor. The police are here to protect us, but we need to make sure they have the resources they need to stay safe. In my opinion, 3 things keep officers alive: equipment, training, and manpower. And last week, and during this budget, we are discussing the manpower needs. By unhiring those 5 officers, by that single move, Acting Manager Sedlak has set our police manpower at 40 cops sometime during the first half of next year. He has done this without any public debate. Even if you believe, as Councilman Erb does, that we should not backfill retirements prior to the actual retirement, you still do not have to unhire all 5. I believe, and others share my belief, that a 40-man roster puts our residents, visitors, and officers at risk. I want to read something to you from a website called Officer Don Memorial Page. The site memorializes police officers from all over the United States who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I want to read something from their page regarding a line of duty death that occurred in one of the communities that Councilman Grieshock cited in his comments last week. I am not mentioning the officer's name out of respect. I do not want to use his name in a political discussion. Here is the first paragraph describing the events of this officer's death, December 6, 2009. Officer was shot and killed in an ambush while responding to a call on Johnson Road. He had been the first officer to arrive on the scene, and he had parked several houses away to wait for backup. He died while waiting for backup. No one can say for sure if this department had an extra man or 2 on the shift if this officer would be alive today. But we do know this. This department frequently has officers responding to calls alone because of a lack of manpower. We also know this department frequently has calls stacked, waiting for available officers to respond. And we know on December 6th, 2009, an officer on Johnson Road died alone, waiting for backup. I hope the discussions of this council and the next will never leave one of our men or women waiting for backup. I appreciate the time to address you this evening.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, would anybody else like to address council? This is certainly your time. Please sign in and state your name for the record.
Okay. My name is Betsy Desmond. I live in Monroeville. I'm a head of crime watch in Garden City. I was not coming up here to speak, but listen to Mr. Yacom's speech about Monroeville. I deal with a lot of people out of all over the area. I'll give you a perfect example that you don't, Monroeville has low income and all this and drug problems. I know for a fact a person, I won't mention his name, worked in Cranberry, young, dealing with young, rich children, going back 10 years, there was more heroin out there where this person worked and more problems. Before that, he went and worked at Bethel Park and was told by a woman that she just bought her son a brand new car and she was parking it in front of this business and told my son, who's a college education, to watch her 17-year-old son's car while he was in school. There was more drugs than there is in the lower income, which Mr. Yakum has put us in the surrounding areas, back then, 10 years ago. And let's remember when they did the prostitution ring in Monroeville, in Moon Township, and another township, that influence, that they busted them all at the same time. Granted, police department needs help right now, no doubt. Budget needs help. But our cops are phenomenal. They're not out there not knowing what they're doing. They have each other's back. I don't know if he's their best friend, but we will get the department straightened out. And Monroeville is not the slums. We have a great school system. We have great communities that do crime watch when it's bad, okay? If it gets bad in Garden City, my neighbors step up. They're not afraid to turn people in. We do the drug bust. Pitcairn, low-income neighborhood. What did they just do? 50 people they've arrested. Nobody got shot. Thank God our officer was not hurt last night, but they're trained. We have the best. We just got it get it organized, and another chief or whatever. Instead of putting us down, as he likes to scare everybody, we have the best. Thank you.
You're here, Betsy. Once again, I will, okay, very good.
Hi, guys. I'm Paul Caleri. I live in Monroeville. I'll be brief. Well, you know, we're looking through personnel issues on the police department. I think a good agenda for us to look at is maybe the slumlords and the people that don't pay the taxes in our municipality, which, number one, would bring in some of that riffraff when you're running a slum, and number two, if we had everybody paying their taxes, which is something we absolutely can look at, would have the funds to pay our police department. Thanks.
Once again. Hi, Val, please sign in and state your name for the record.
Valerie Warning, and I do live in Monroeville. I'm just here tonight to just express my sincere thanks. I just recently completed the Citizens Police Academy that was offered by the Monroeville and Penn Hills Police Department. When I signed up for it, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and when I completed it, my one son, who is a police officer, says, "Mom, do you still want to get a gun?" No. Just seeing on a small basis what these police officers do and how their day is run, I was amazed. It is such a fantastic program, and these police officers do put out their lives every day for us. And I want to thank them personally, and I urge citizens both in Penn Hills and in Monroeville to sign up for the next class that they will be holding in the spring. Like I said, it was a fantastic program, and thank you again for offering that.
Thank you, Val. Didn't have to say anything.
Beth Fishman from Monroeville. Given that, based on Mr. Yakum's speech, we're one step above a slum, I would invite him to please move out and make a lot of people happy. That being said, since this is the last council meeting, and Mrs. Allison has been my councilwoman for 4 years, I would like to thank her, even though we don't agree on so much. It is a sacrifice, and I appreciate what she has done and given the last 4 years, so thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I will open it up for comment from you. This is your time to address council. Ron, if you'll state your name and where you live.
Ron Harvey, I'm a resident of Monroeville, and I am also a retired police officer from the Monroeville Police Department. I'm not trying to blow up my career, but I'm saying it for a reason. I worked 9.5 years here on night shift. I worked 1 year administrative. I worked undercover narcotics for Lou Smith, and I spent my last remaining 10 years on a motorcycle in charge of traffic. I think my experience goes around a little bit. I was also involved in 2 incidents in officer-involved shootings. And I can tell you that what you need to do is not listen to people like that. We're just up here telling you how to run the police department, and put a responsible chief in and listen to him. That man will bring to you, or a woman will bring to you, what they need to run the police department. Everybody coming up here and throwing manpower, those 5 officers would have meant no difference last night. It was the second most terrible incident a police officer can be involved in. That guy's going to carry that for the rest of his life. And there's people putting crap on Facebook about it. Him, for one. Personally, as a retired police officer, I'm insulted by it. I'll always be a part of this police department, whether I'm retired or not. Nobody knows what that man went through unless you did it yourself.
Amen to that.
Everybody should shut up about it, let the police department and the county do their investigation, and let him get back to work. Coming up here and making that 5 people or 5 men are going to make it. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see you hire 20 police officers, but it wouldn't have made a difference last night. The man was close to the call, and backup wouldn't have been there no matter what. And he had to make a decision, a terrible one. Now there's a family without a relative and a police officer sitting at home who took somebody's life. I don't know what everybody thinks about this, but you need to get and listen to your chief. Put a responsible chief in and talk to him. He'll decide how much manpower he needs out here. Listen to him.
Amen to that, Ron. Thank you. Would anybody else like to address council at this time? It is certainly your moment to address council on any issue that you would like to bring forth. Seeing none, we'll close that proportion of the meeting, and we'll go to our reports of our officials.
Mr. Mayor, could I just make a comment about the subject matter that was just brought up regarding...
Do you want to hold that for your report? Or
Actually, I do have a separate report, but I'd like to follow up on some of the metrics we were talking about, because I was taking some notes.
Public comment is closed. I agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Les.
Okay. And, I heard all comments. In fact, I heard theories on both sides of this dais about, how apparently we should compare or shouldn't compare. And in listening about other communities and the police forces being compared to Monroeville, I did listen again to Dr. Griesbach's comparison. And the numbers, I won't repeat them, but, the numbers were compared to Monroeville, our current, and what we've been budgeted for, which is 50, which really sits, I think, at quite less than that, and may go as low as 40, depending on the first quarter of 2014, when there is an anticipated retirement going to be used. I also wanted to see how we compare to Radnor. Radnor, PA was compared, in fact, the word's very comparable to Monroeville in terms of police staffing needs, with 40 police for this year. So I visited the Radnor Township website, which was very informative. And during the last business meeting they have a board of commissions, and by the way, all meetings are on YouTube. I also looked at some demographic information. And I just want to say this about Radnor, or the fact that we can even compare ourselves to anybody else, because their population was somewhere around, I believe here, the population was about, 31,000 compared to almost 28,000 here. Radnor's biggest concern, according to their last meeting on November 11th, was the controversy as to whether they should forego the purchase of 55 to 60 acres of an estate referred to as Ardrossan. You know, this was the biggest concern in Radnor, Pennsylvania. Apparently, Ardrossan has been selling off chunks of their estate, and the estate was presented to the constituents that were at the meeting as a preservation of open space planning. And of course, this is a huge estate. In fact, it was the inspiration behind the movie Philadelphia Story. So the residents that I saw in front of Radnor had suits and ties on, speaking in a professional manner, very polite. They were more concerned. Their biggest concern was whether or not they could take $2 million toward, on behalf of wetlands and riparian buffers and, you know, instead of the development of exclusive homes. If you take a look at the comparison, the median resident age of Radnor is 31.7 years versus Monroeville, 42.6. The median household income in Radnor is comparing to the Pennsylvania median of $50,000, $74,272 versus Monroeville's $57,969. The per capita income in Radnor, $50,593. The per capita income in Monroeville, $31,452. And the reason that you have to take a look at this is not because you yourself would go beyond what the police administration would do. That's part of their budgeting process. But if you're going to talk about comparing apples, compare apples to apples. This was not comparing apples to apples. It was quite different. And you know, they don't have a movie theater. They don't have a mall. They don't have the second busiest intersection. They don't have a lot of the stuff that I think that the highest number of things that we actually respond to aren't the slumlords, but actually traffic violations and burglaries. That's the highest number of things that the intensity of services. So I think that just needs to be pointed out there when we're comparing ourselves. That's all.
Joe, any others for your report?
No report.
Bruce? Nothing. Vern, we'll start off with you this evening.
I want to thank everybody for the last 4 years. There's been more misery than pleasure for the last 4 years, and it started the day that I started in this role. Don't let anybody ever tell you that this is an easy position, easy role. Half the population can agree or disagree with every decision you make, and they certainly will. So for the new council members coming on, be aware of that. They will disagree. Half the population will agree with you, half the population will disagree with you on everything. Nonetheless, I've had a lot of fun with, although I've had a lot of arguments with a number of the members of council on the dais, I've also had some fun with them and built some relationships. I want to thank Mr. Johns for throwing an excellent event last night on behalf of the children with the Spirit of Christmas. I did attend that, as did other members of council, and I thought it was a wonderful event. And we have a great community.
Amen.
I will tell you this, and I've had my concerns about the police department and about crime and other things, and I've talked about those when it was my responsibility to talk about those. But I'm going to tell you something as an observation. If we keep commenting and continually discuss and continually disparage our community and the income levels and the no-show hotels and everything else, we will build that community. When Upper Sinclair has a shooting, what you get are no comments. When an impoverished community that's afraid of crime gets a shooting, what you get is people screaming and yelling and freaking out on TV. It's an observation I made when I lived in New York, and it's true on TV everywhere in this country. The reason wealthy communities don't have crime issues is they don't talk about them. They don't talk about them not because they're not trying to deal with them. They don't talk about them because they don't want to attract them. There are times that you have to talk about them. Council has to talk about those types of things. But to constantly dwell on it will build that community. I happen to like the mall. I happen to like the movie theaters. If we want to sound like a crime-ridden, riddled community in southwestern PA, then what we should do is we should start advertising it. We should talk to WTAE, we should talk to KDKA in the papers and constantly complain that we have a high crime rate. I guarantee you, you will invite and bring those people that create that environment. So, I mean, what we say is what we get. It's the perception that we build.
Thank you.
Again, does it have to be talked about sometimes? It certainly does. But it doesn't need to be talked about constantly. And it certainly doesn't need to be talked about after a shooting. We should be praying for the officer.
I got to clap on that.
I heard about it. When I heard about it, the only question I had is, how is the officer? And all I wanted to know was, how was the officer's mental state? I've never taken anybody's life, but I know that it's, I know it's the worst thing that you can do. So we need to pray for that officer. You can have fun as new council members, back to the new council members. You can have fun. You're going to have some arguments. You're going to have some misery. I will tell you that you all have my phone number. You're all welcome to call me if you have anything that you need. I have some of your mobile phones, and if I have a thought, I'll probably call you. I probably won't see you too many times up here, but I will talk to you if I think that there's something that you need to know, and that goes for everybody else up here as well. So, in the meantime, have fun. Have a great holiday, great Christmas, great New Year's, and let's just keep doing what we have to do to make Monroeville a great place.
Thank you, Bert. Dr. Esock.
Yes, to address some of the misstatements that were brought up. On Thursday, I did compare other communities to what we have in our police department. That comparison was brought up because Mr. Yakum suggested that bad guys would have a field day coming here because of our police department. In no way am I trying to advocate or say that we need to drop our department down to 40 officers. I'm just letting the residents know when someone gets up publicly and says that there's a problem here, there's not enough officers, I want the residents to know where other towns, where other communities sit. And I did bring up Cranberry Township, Mount Lebanon, Penn Hills, Plum, 7 or 8 of them, plus Radnor Township. I absolutely agree with Mrs. Drumhiller and actually with Mr. Yakum that it's a challenge to compare town to town. There are a lot of variables whenever we're talking about police staffing and police manpower. You do have to deal with demographics, square miles, business district, residential. The list goes on. As far as Radnor Township, there are definitely differences between us and them. There are some similarities. They are a home rule charter. They are 15 miles outside of Philadelphia. They have very similar square miles that we do. They have a business district. They have multiple hospitals, multiple universities. The list goes on. We can sit here and compare and agree and disagree with how these different towns match up. But my intention was to no way suggest that we need to drop our department down in any way. I am not against hiring new officers. Absolutely not. We are currently working on a budget right now. It's been suggested that it's a balanced budget. I would disagree. It is I would say, maybe a non-functional balanced budget or an unrealistic balanced budget. I am in favor of hiring 5 police officers, maintaining what we currently have, not dwindling it down to 40 like Mr. Yacom suggests that I'm suggesting. I never said that, and that is not true. But it is fiscally responsible to hire people as new, or as the older officers, or as the retiring officers actually retire. I agree with Mr. Erb's comments from the other day that it is unwise to backfill positions. Backfilling being that you are hiring people in anticipation that people are going to retire. People don't retire until they sign their paperwork. Things change personally in people's lives. Maybe they need to work longer. Maybe they want to work longer, and they change their minds. I've spoken to many retired officers who have changed it, went back and forth with it, even up to the last minute, would change their minds. But in no way am I against hiring new officers. I have been in favor of a hiring freeze, municipal-wide, since August, before our budget was put out. That is the financially responsible thing to do. But moving forward, once our officers are retiring, that's when we can hire our new officers. We have 5 officers that are very highly qualified, scored extremely well on our civil service test. I happen to know one of them. They would all make great additions to our force and to our community. But right now, it's not the financially responsible thing to do. But once again, in no way am I in favor of our force dwindling down to 40 or lower. We'd like to maintain our force. I agree with some of Mr. Harvey's comments as far as we need to get a new chief to really assess what our needs are and let him or her decide what we need to do best, because up here as residents and council people, we don't have police experience, other than Mr. Harvey, of course, but we aren't here to make those types of decisions. So I support our police department. We have a wonderful police department. They work very hard. They do a wonderful job. And moving forward, we need to maintain and support them. And we will be addressing this moving into January. The past few years have been certainly a challenge. It's not been good for anyone involved, anyone up here, anyone out there, for the community in general. And moving forward in 2014, there will still be challenges, and we all need to work hard, make tough decisions, work together, and hopefully get Monroeville back to where it should be. It is a great town. I do agree with Mr. Erb. It's a wonderful community, and I look forward to helping us get back to where we should be. Other than that, I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing everyone in January.
Thank you, Dr. Grieslock. Mrs. Drumheller?
Yes, Mayor. My final report, like others, is intended for those with a lifelong interest in Monroeville. Not the window dressing of the 2013 chambers, but those with a real desire that whoever sits up here be informed. Monroeville's 2013 services were responsibly managed during a contentious year. For 2014, Manager McKinney's budget presented to council in early October was balanced. It raised no taxes nor took away any services. It is disappointing that council members who knew better somehow lost faith in the 2013 and the 14 line items within that budget, since they had the same information I had each month based on what was prepared. It will now be up to the next council and to understand and perhaps resolve that by passing the 2014 budget presented in October, this municipality will save money and breaks in services in an already anticipated year where there will be capital outlay and major preservation of infrastructure. For example, the cost in dealing with the old Ramsey Road versus even having a 2014 paving program. I explained last Thursday the lack of wisdom over recent unhiring within the police budget. We had an opportunity to debate that this summer, but no one questioned the plan as I read out the August 2013 minutes Thursday. You know, Jim Brown, who represented the 4th Ward, and I didn't agree much of, most of the time. However, I always agreed with how he described our two primary budget responsibilities, public safety and public works. What has happened with this new majority that's up here since 26 November is the inability to even communicate toward the debate that we needed. The wisdom of completing the hires versus part of the hires, for example, 3 versus 5 new officers. Nobody in August questioned this, as if it didn't even happen. But you go into the minutes yourself. You know, no one would give it up in executive session. So I have to conclude that the only cause to consider removing Mrs. McKinney is because. Go back to previous decades of minutes that you read. Read those minutes. And when Mary Ann Now was fired, for example. Compare and contrast the undignified motion, November 26th, to escort Mrs. McKinney out of the municipal offices and out of the building, to find out that only later on that week that a police chief terminated with cause was free to roam around the municipal offices last Friday after his meeting with the interim manager. Tell me if you think that by that move some animals are more equal than others. So in closing, I want to borrow from the late, great Bill Hicks, who was probably more brilliant than his contemporary George Carlin. A comedic message is fitting when addressing attitudes of public servants, I think. Anyway, one of Hicks' monologues that's fit for television describes the world in a most interesting way. He said, "The world is like a ride in an amusement park. When we choose to go on it, we think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. The rides go up and down and around and around. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored. And it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Many people have been on the ride a long time, and they begin to wonder, is this real, or is this just a ride? And others, like Gandhi or King, seem to have remembered something, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. I've got a lot invested in this ride. Shut her up. Look at my furrowed, worried brow. Look at my big investments in my bank accounts. Look at my family's legacy and my jobs program. It's just a ride. We always kill the good guys who try to tell us that. You never notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. I was reminded of this monologue when hearing echoes of the past notables taking part of this ride. They are really some of the stronger voices I recall listening to, unlike some weaker voices of my past who prodded my going on this ride and preserving their legacy, only to develop their own amnesia, hop off, go into the sunset, never heard of again. Meanwhile, many of the stronger voices have stood out for me, many from women in this town. I'm going to remember two of these people. One is Marilyn Skolnick, and the other is Marilyn Chandler. They were referred to as the two terrible Marilyns. They graced these chambers decades ago. They made a lot of people address questions based on doing their homework. They inspired me. In fact, I knew Mrs. Chandler for about 6 months when I ran in 2008. That Marilyn introduced me for the last time to her care staff at the hospital where she was a patient for the last time. She introduced me as the Miracle Lady of Monroeville because of that election. But it wasn't a miracle. I just never worried about the ride too much. It's not meant to be a permanent destination. It's not meant to be a jobs program for the good old network of Monroeville. We're up here. We move here. We weren't born here. We come here. We're trying to being part of the community. We are up here. We're here. We up here, or, you know, in Monroeville, or still out there sitting in the audience, might better pay attention to what the two Marylands were saying all this time. It's not a different message. It just keeps getting stepped on by jackbooted thugs. New council members, remember that you still have a 2014 budget before you, and my best advice, which it's worth the price, free, is to pass it as well as it could be intended as you continue to inform yourself via, hopefully, the newly elected officials course at the local government academy. Know what you are doing, and then tell Boss Tweed that the ride is over. I think that's the best way to start this next year. And that's the end of my report.
Mr. Johns.
Okay. I just got a couple things. One, I'd like to thank everybody that was there last night to help with the children, the kids. Thanks to a lot of you folks out there and some of the folks here. We were able to accumulate a lot more toys for a lot of kids, and it helps tremendously, and I really mean that. I'd like to thank Mr. Logan again. With his help, we had a couple buses, and he really came through. It meant a lot to me and to the kids. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I'd like to thank the 4 members of council that are leaving for all the fun I've had the last 2 years. We all know it's going to be a Happy New Year. With that, I'm done.
Mrs. Allison. I don't even know what to say. Go ahead.
All right, then. I really would like to take this opportunity to say the past 4 years were not quite exactly what I had expected. But what was worth every minute of this adventure was seeing important projects, from some of the smallest, from reactivating the Crime Watch, but very important, to some of the largest projects, one which we just recently went over today, which took 4 years to get to. It was, when someone told me things move slow in government, I never, ever expected it to be that slow. But finally, to see these things come to fruition is just an incredible feeling because they all benefit the community. I met some really incredible people who truly care about this community that we all call home. These people are the jewels that I've been honored to get to know, some on a very personal level. I work with a few of them, and some I even consider friends. I also would like to thank my family for their constant support and all that they've endured from me being up here, the time it took from them, and them being continually subject to the rumor mill, which wasn't always fair to them. I wish the new council the best of luck. And finally, I want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a very happy and safe New Year.
Mr. Duncan.
I also would like to thank the outgoing members of council for their services to the community, and I wish you all good luck. And have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That's all I have.
And I'll wrap it up with a real quick wrap-up as well. And I also would like to say that the last 4 years, some of them have only been 2 years with our outgoing council. At times, were challenging to say the least, but I agree, Bern, and will agree with me on this. We had some camaraderie as well. It wasn't always all bad. Trust me on that one. And good luck to all of you. That's from the heart. In regards to some of the comments Mr. Erb made, I definitely want to echo them. Monroeville is a wonderful place to live. I'm very proud to be your mayor here. Yes, we have some issues, but you tell me one city in America that doesn't have issues. You tell me one city probably anywhere in the world that doesn't have issues. We're dealing with human beings. And we can be very unpredictable at times. In regards to just the Monroeville period, couldn't be prouder of our community. We went through some tough times. If you remember when I took over in 2008 as mayor, the economy really was in the tank. I mean, it was, do you remember your 401ks? Remember your pensions? Pretty tough. Believe it or not, we've fared well from 2008 to today. I assure you, I meet with my counterparts in Allegheny County, they still are very envious of us, of our services, our community. And as far as demographics go, I am very proud to say we have a very diverse community. We probably have so many different dialects. I think it's 20-some at our high school. We probably have every ethnic group, almost. I won't say in the entire, but we have a lot. And you know what? That's good for our children. Because you know what? That's the real world they're going to work and live in. So don't give up on Monroeville, folks. I say that to you sitting here and everybody out in the audience listening. You're going to have the naysayers. Obviously, you heard one this evening. You don't like the community? Move out. Monroeville's a great place to live. I'm very proud to live here. We're going to have some good programs coming up, as Mr. Schufo and I have still been working on our residential program. As I stated to you, this will go in full gear coming up this spring. That you could take to the bank, and I still have all of your names that have want to get involved in that. We will make a difference in our residential areas. As far as the new council goes, I look forward to working with all of you. We do have some challenges. We're going to not always agree, but you'll never see it up here. We've all agreed that we need to change the way we do business, and we will. And we will meet the challenges that face us. As far as that 2013 budget that was presented, Dr. Griesbach hit the nail on the head. I did not support it. Well, 2013 going into 14. That was presented in October. Thank you, Bob. If this council would have passed it, I would have vetoed every tax attached to it. Just for the simple fact is, if you remember our seniors, they made it perfectly clear. They did not want their senior center touched. You talk to the people that deal with our parks and rec, there weren't no big issues up there. That's a substantial part of our population here. We will keep all of our services. Is there going to be some challenges that we're going to have, a little bit of pain? Yes, there certainly will be. And as far as our police department goes, you will never find a bigger supporter than everybody sitting up here and the new council coming in. Do we argue on issues within that department? I agree, but I think Mr. Harvey said that all and could not say it any better. When we get he or she in as a chief, they will direct. They're the experts. They're the professionals. And with that, please have a very happy holidays coming up. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And you know what? God bless America. God bless Monroeville. We're going to be just fine in 14, folks. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.